Alright, hey, it's Mustang Stampede here. I want to do a quick video here. It's just going to be a crash course on the 302 Ford motor. It's a small block Ford motor. It's commonly known as the 5.0. I have a video that will be posted here with this one, showing kind of where things were setting when the motor was being disassembled. And this one's just a quick, I guess, I just want to point out some parts and some things that may make things easier for someone to understand, in case they ever want to partake in something like this. There's some complete rebuild guides out there that are on some of the forums, and this kind of just gives you more in-depth of what part they may be talking about when the instructions says lifter or push rod or crank or cam or whatnot. And I'm not a pro at this by no means. I've been learning as we go. So I just kind of want to point out some things, and first thing I'm going to do is I mentioned that we had a bent push rod. Right there is that bent push rod. It's this one right here that's on my hand. The bend is right there. And right here is a straight push rod. Alright, these ones to this side are 3-piece push rods that come from the factory, and they're 3-piece because you have a little ball that's, I don't know if it's pressed on. It actually kind of rolls on there. I can roll it with my finger like that. And it's on both ends. There's also a little oil valley. Well, actually, it doesn't roll. It just feels like it's rolling because of my glove. Alright, so you got your oil hole on both sides. And those must be pressed or welded on. I'm not sure. I'm guessing they must be pressed on there. That's why they call it a 3-piece push rod. On this side, I have a stock length. As you can see there, it's stock length. Comp cams. I think they're high pro stock 1-piece push rods. As you notice, there's no ball on the end of these. It still has the oil hole on both sides. I'm sure oil hole is not the technical term for that, but we'll go with it. So that's the oil, that's the 1-piece push rod right there, from Comp Cams. Then you have, this is a stock lifter. As you can see right here, I mentioned that we had a damaged lifter. This one's perfectly circle, and this is what damaged our cam, and I believe it may have also damaged our crank, but I'm not sure about that. Someone with a little bit more knowledge. I do know that this piece rolls on your cam, and that damaged our cam. I believe this follows the lobes of the cam and lifts the push rods up. You have 2 push rods per cylinder, and one controls exhaust and one controls intake. Alright, so you have this perfectly circle one here. Here's the one that caused damage to our camshaft. As you can see, it's flat on one side. You can see it's almost a perfect square right there. And this is when I was saying that the motor was close to catastrophic failure, and that was because a dog bone was missing. Or installed wrong, we believe. And so then you have, so those are your lifters, and then here you have your pedestal mount. I guess these are rockers, your pedestal rockers. So you can see these bolt onto your motor. The difference between a pedestal mount and a stud mount is, if it was a stud mount, you would have this piece right here at the bottom where my pinky is. That would be bolted down into your block, or your heads, your heads would be bolted into your heads with the push rod guides connected to it. And then your rocker, well, if you have stud mount, you probably have roller rocker. But this is a pedestal rocker, so that mounts on there, and then you have one for the intake and one for the exhaust, and they rock back and forth. And one's when it's up or whatnot. I'm not sure how it goes, but so you got your intake is open, closed, open, closed. Then right next to it, you have, for that same piston, you have one for the exhaust, and it's operating at the opposite of your other one. So that would be, and I'm going to show you the head. That way you understand a little more. Like I said, I'm not very good at this and explaining, and I'm sure that all I know is that these are opposite. You got your exhaust one, then you have an intake one, and they operate opposite each other for obvious reasons. Because you have, at a certain point when the piston's going down, it's drawing, you have your gas and air going in. then there's an explosion that pushes the piston down, and this operates at the same time as that or whatnot. So that's a pedestal mount. Here is roller rocker arms. As you can see, there's no bolt on these. They set right on the pushrod, I believe. Or maybe, well, actually you probably just use a stock bolt, but you can see here you got like a pin that slides all the way through there, and that's where you get the term roller rocker arm, because they roll on those pins, and then they operate the same way as the normal rockers. So that's Pro Comp's pedestal mount roller rocker arms. These are not stud mount roller rocker arms, they're pedestal. I think you can get these at Jegs, they're about $175. Alright, so that's those pieces. And then I'm going to move over here to the very next thing. Here's your crank. Here's the counterweights for your crank. And this one's just a stock cast crank. It's been damaged as well. There's some marring right here on it, and I believe each one of these had a little bit of wear and tear on it. So we're replacing this with a cast steel scat crank. The cast steel here, if you feel your counterweights kind of rough, the cast steel should be much smoother than this, and the scat crank has a much more knife edge counterweight to slice through your oil pan. So that's the crank. Back here you have what they refer to as like your 8-bolt main. This goes to your flywheel or your pressure plate, depending on whether you have an automatic or a stick shift transmission. If it's a stick shift, that would be the pressure plate. If it's a stick shift, you would have a flywheel. They look the same, they just have a different name. Okay, then up in the front here of your crank, on the other side there's a key. Let me see if I can turn it around. There's like a little locking key. You can barely start to see it. It's kind of hard to hold the camera and do this, but let's see, did I go too far now? Right here is the key. And also this is the bottom side of your timing chain. And then of course the top side goes to your camshaft. So this is the front of the motor here, and that's your crank. And then, like I said, we're getting the cast steel crank. Alright, so again, here's the camshaft. As I said in the other video, we had some damage on the lobes here, where especially the one where that flat roller, that flat lifter that over there was all jacked up. It caused the marks on here. And then on this here, it is marked. Let's see, this one is marked right here. I'm trying to get a good light on there, but that's an E303 cam from Ford Racing. It's not a stock camshaft. It's being replaced with E303 cam. Alright, so here is your oil. Lost for a thought here. This is your oil pump, and there's your oil pump shaft. We have a ARP oil pump shaft coming in. That's your oil pump shaft. This here's your oil pickup tube that runs down into your oil pan, sucks the oil in. You'll notice there's a screen there to prevent stuff from going in up into your oil. And on this one we pulled all kinds of gasket material, and it really started to show that the last people that had this motor apart didn't even really have any clue as to what they was doing. Alright, here's your timing chain, a double roller timing chain. The small end here goes to that crank, as I showed you a little bit ago. And the top piece goes to your camshaft. And there's a little indentation. It's like a little, let me see if I can see it here. Right here by my finger there's a little mark. It should, when you first put this on, it should be at the bottom, and it should be lined up with the same indentation on this sprocket. Let's see if I can see it here. It might be on a different piece, but those two marks should be lined up. And that's how you know you're pretty close to being in time, I reckon, or it's a good starting point. So, and of course ours was not even in time. I don't know if that's because they advanced the timing or whatnot, I'm not sure. But I do know that those marks were not even lined up. Alright, so we talked about the other components there that are attached to the head. and here's the head. And I went ahead and flipped one upside down, and then I got one that's right side up. That way we can kind of see how things work here. Right here you have your valves. One is intake, one is exhaust. Someone may comment, I'm not sure which is which. I believe the intake is a larger one and the exhaust is a smaller one, but I could be wrong. So that is it. Right here, let's see, is that, bear with me for a second here. Alright, these two holes here on this bottom side, that's where the push rods go. And then over here on this side, this is where the push rods come out. And you should have the guides and the dog bones. No, the dog bones go inside the valley, I'm sorry, and that would be on top of the motor block itself. But the push rods come out right here, and the guides set in between. And then you got your valve springs. These ones are like heavy duty double valve springs. And we kind of think that's why we bent the push rod was bent. So then you have your pedestal mount rockers that set right here, and you know they rock back and forth like my hand. And then you have one is intake, one is exhaust, and it corresponds with your valves right here. I was talking to a guy. He just recently had his heads at the shop, and 75% of all improved intake is done right here by the cleaning out the bowl of your and installing your larger valves. So this is your heads of the 302 motor. So just kind of wanted to point out some of those things. If there's something else you may want to know or look at, let me know, and I will try to make a video of it. Of course, this is where your I'll just go ahead and add a couple more things. Here's where your valve cover sets. Your valve cover is actually set over that, and this would be where your header connects to the head itself. So, hey, thanks for watching this little crash course on the inside of the heads and some of the motor parts. Thanks for watching.